Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. Now this book has received a lot of hype, and I mean, whoo-hoo, a lot of hype. Many people out there saying it is the best book released in 2024, and one of the best debut novels that they have read in many years. So the bar is high, everybody, the bar is high. But then you've also got people like Kieran from KD Books, who's been Street Fighter punching it across the room because of how much he hated it. And I'm going to have to do a little bit of a cop-out because I'm a little bit like Switzerland when it comes to this book. I think I sit perfectly in the middle. This book is neither complete and utter garbage worthy of being drop-kicked across the room, or as funny as that is, but also it is not the best novel of 2024, nor is it one of the best debuts released in the past decade. It's good. However, the twist, the twist, what is the twist? What is the thing? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's also like, what are the chances? It's rubbish. It really is rubbish. It's something that you would predict and go, oh yeah, I think that could be the case. Nah, it wouldn't be. That would be stupid. That would be ridiculous. And it is that. But I luckily was able to put all of that aside because this book has so much more to offer than just the twist. In this novel, we follow a man called Cyrus. He's around 30 years old and he's dealing with a legacy of loss and violence. He is also a poet struggling with alcohol and drug addiction, trying to stay sober. Cyrus is looking for some kind of meaning in his life, something to cling on to, and he becomes obsessed with martyrs and the idea of being a martyr and that your death means something. The whole idea around martyrs, especially within the first sort of half of this book, is what I found brilliant and a really fascinating concept for a novel. Cyrus's mother died when her plane was accidentally shot down over Tehran. Cyrus was very young when his mother died, and his father decided to move him over to America, where they lived quite a constrained life. His father worked in a factory killing chickens. Guided by the voices of artists, poets, and kings, Cyrus is on a journey of discovery and understanding. Throughout his quest and exploration of martyrs in the book that he is hoping to write about martyrs and maybe one day himself live up to or become a martyr, he discovers, purely by chance, a museum exhibition taking place in Brooklyn, New York. And at that museum is a woman who is dying of terminal cancer. And a bit like Marina Abramovich in her show that she did at the Met, maybe, I watched a documentary on it, she just sits there each day as people can come to the gallery, sit down with her and talk about death. And this piques Cyrus's interest as he is so curious about her taking her death and using it to have some sort of meaning, and he wants to write about her in his book. The novel is extremely sort of schizophrenic and frantic in its structuring. We get sections from Cyrus's dad, from his mum, from his uncle. We get sections from his friends in America. It is jumping around constantly. And while at the start of this novel that was really refreshing, it had me really engaged, at times it does seem to slow things down narratively. The novel is also packed with humour and full of these kind of beautiful philosophical one-liners that I just kind of fell in love with. The writer, Kaveh Akbar, was a poet, and this is his first sort of novel, and I think he does a fantastic job. I thought the writing was beautiful throughout the entirety of this. One of this novel's strengths and weaknesses, which is why I'm very middle ground with it, is that it will have like a chapter that might be only 2 pages long that talks about, let's say, addiction. And somehow within just those 2 pages, Kaveh Akbar is able to beautifully sum up not only where Cyrus is with his road to recovery, but also the idea of what people struggling with addiction are really going through. I may talk about that a little bit more later on, but yeah, I think this book has just got moments of absolute, just, I wouldn't say genius, but just some fantastic moments. And then also moments, where it's absolute pants. So, yeah, real mixed bag. So what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked. Well, firstly, I absolutely loved Cyrus as a character. I thought he was beautifully brought to life. He really does stand out in this novel. In fact, I thought all of the characters in this novel were beautifully put together. Some we get a lot more time than others, but we just get such a grasp on their personalities and the way they were. Yeah, I think the characterization in this is excellent all the way through. I only have one small little negative, and I think I'll say it now just because I'm on it. At times, there's a sort of like childish and naivety to Cyrus, considering what he's been through, that doesn't feel like the sort of tone and presence of a 30-year-old. It feels like someone much, much younger. And at times, it really felt like I was reading someone in their early 20s as opposed to someone in their 30s. But nevertheless, really beautifully brought to life. Next up, I absolutely love the themes in this novel. It is packing in a lot. We have martyrs and martyrdom, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea for a novel. The way it explores someone dealing with addiction, trying to find solace and trying to better themselves, for the idea of what martyrs are and what it means to give your life to something bigger than yourself, I think is a really great idea for a novel. This novel is also dealing with addiction, which I think it does in a really kind of delicate, but really kind of, well, it's delicate but also quite blunt way throughout the novel, which I think, yeah, there was many passages about addiction that I kind of was able to really sort of connect with. And also its ideas of religion and immigration and art. Yeah, it's packing in a lot, and I think for the most part it handles all of its themes really, really well. As mentioned earlier, I absolutely adored the writing in this one. Kaveh Akbar can certainly put a sentence together with humour, but also with poetry, and the prose just flowed beautifully all the way through. The structure of this novel is something I really liked, but also something I thought really damaged the novel as well, so I don't know quite where to talk about it, so I'll talk about it a little bit here and I'll talk about it a little bit in my dislikes. But what I really enjoyed about this novel is that it does jump around a lot. We jump back into the past, we move forwards, we are in the United States with Cyrus and we jump through his life there, but we also jump back to before Cyrus was even born, and his family and his dad and his mum and the culture of where he grew up. We get a lot, and it jumps around a lot. We also get these dreams. Oh God, I hated the dreams, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. But we also get these sort of dreams that Cyrus is having that is also sort of like guiding us on his sort of thought process and his sort of mental well-being as the novel progresses. And I have massive issues with the structure. It's one of the things I sort of disliked, but at the same time, I really loved that it jumped around a lot. And again, it worked so much better in the first half than it did in the second half. And the final thing I liked about this novel, even though it can be a little heavy-handed at times, is the emotional depth of what's taking place. We're dealing with sort of like PTSD, loss, grief, kind of acceptance, belonging, very sort of heavy themes, and I think they're all dealt with beautifully to varying degrees. As I said, at times it is sort of shoving it in your face, especially towards the end of this novel, which was a massive drag, in which it really is just like chucking it down your throat. And I was like, you need to back off, because I get it. You need to stop now, and it just didn't stop. But up until that point, I thought, yeah, it was handled really sort of beautifully throughout, and loads of moments where I just sort of had to sort of stop and take a moment. Yeah, good. It was good. What didn't I like? So I hated the dream sequences, hated them, absolutely hated them. I've never been too, unless sort of like dreams and sort of are built into the fabric of the world in what's taking place, I always find dreams quite tricky within fiction. I always go, really? My dreams aren't like that. My dreams have nowhere near as much narrative cohesion that really leads on to the sort of the things and the themes that you're dealing with in your life. But who can say anything about dreams? Because it's an impossible thing to kind of define. So some people could have dreams that are directly linked to sort of like the narrative journey that they're on and what's happening in their lives. Normally I just have dreams that go, oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious. That was an anxious dream. Whereas in this, Cyrus's dreams seem to have such clarity about what's happening around him, including characters like sort of like, I think like Lisa Simpson and Donald Trump, and people turn up in them. We have the basketball player, I've forgotten his name, there's like a few moments within them that had sort of like importance to what was going on. I just think there could have been another way to deal with it. I thought they really, especially in the second half when I was so keen for things to keep moving forwards, I thought they were pointless, utterly pointless, and they really dragged it down and they did nothing for me. Next up, we have the poems that are sort of scattered throughout that Cyrus is sort of writing in this book. We get little sections from these poems that are making up this book of martyrs that he's creating. Now, these are far more crucial for me than the dreams are, but still, I didn't get much from them. I felt like it would have been better served if they weren't poems and they were like little essays or little things that he had been writing to give us a bit of a clue into what was happening. Again, I mean, I don't like poetry, everybody. I don't. So hate me for that if you will, but I really don't like poetry. So I don't think those things were ever really going to do anything for me anyway. But yeah, again, I didn't like them. They slowed everything down. Even though they are quite short, they didn't slow things down too much. But yeah, I didn't like them. And my final dislike is, of course, the twist. The moment it happens. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. I don't know what to say. I don't want to ruin anything, so I'm not going to spoil what it is. And it's a massive shame. It's an absolute massive shame. It's almost, it's just so convenient. And like, what? Yeah, and I am fully with Kieran from KD Books in his frustration. I feel like for Kieran, the pointlessness and the stupidity of this sort of twist, this moment, ruined everything for him. For me, not so much. It might be that I've just read that really, really boring book that I've forgotten the name of now. What was it? This Strange and Eventful History, which was absolute pants. Which is why this was such a breath of fresh air, because the first half of this book, I was like, oh my God, I needed this. But yeah, that is stupid. It's stupid. And narratively, and what happens in this book, and I think I really disliked, is we were sort of cooking. So I thought that Cyrus was going to go on a journey of discovery with sort of martyrs. And I thought the lady at Brooklyn doing the exhibition as she sits there as she's dying and people can talk to her, I thought she was just going to be one stop along this sort of like a journey that he was going to go on. I thought Cyrus was going to go on this massive journey, and maybe we're going to end up with him finding a way to sort of martyr himself, or it was going to escalate and escalate and escalate, and we were going to really dissect this theme that I found so fascinating. But no, we get to Brooklyn, everything stops. And that's where we stay for the rest of the novel. And that was another thing I really, really, really disliked. This was a 4, maybe 4.5 star book halfway through. And then by like day 3 in Brooklyn, I think it was around day 3 in Brooklyn, that's where the novel just started getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for me, because it just stagnated and it didn't go anywhere and it didn't really do much for me. I don't think that's going to be a massive issue for many. I think people are going to be fine with that, but I just expected a lot more. Overall, I think Martyr offers a really sort of like frank and quite blunt exploration of trauma and identity, and I think it does those two things really, really well. It's just narratively and structurally, this book is not quite where I would have wanted it to be. So I'm landing on like 3 stars out of 5. I thought it was good, but nothing more than that, and no way near being one of my favourite reads of 2024. So, have you read this book? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below. I want to say thank you to Kieran from KD Books for sending this one on for me to review. And yeah, I hope you're all good, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.